Moving on to 2A, speaking about a team that's used to winning year in and year out, you have to talk about the Bishop Luers Knights. Thought the game against Busco was going to be a little bit closer than 21-0.
It was close. It was close.
It was close, that's right. It was 7-0 going into the fourth.
7 and change left in the game, and it's a 7-0 game.
That's true.
And I think Busco, the Busco game is very similar to what they're going to see in the Tipton game this year. Tipton's been blown out by them 2 years in a row. But Luers is not as good as it was the last couple of years. Now, granted, you lose a number of great players, including a Division I quarterback in James Kanapke, and you're going to drop back some. They're still great. They still have Jalen Smith. And it was very interesting to watch that game the other night because Busco's hanging right in there, and Busco had 2 critical turnovers near the red zone. One on a fumble by Jason Nicodemus, another on an interception by Jay Petrie. They had chances to win that game, or to at least be in that game. Fourth quarter, Jalen Smith, I swear, he flipped a switch, started making plays on both sides of the ball. Got a sack of Corey Miller, tackle for loss on Corey Miller, then sacked Petrie on the next play. Then he got the ball back, and the running game, I mean, you know what, Steve Kiefer just hands the ball off to Jalen Smith. There's none of this, hey, we're going to try to spread the ball around, use them as decoy, but get the ball to Jalen is their offense. And he just had big run after big run after big run. Because the Busco kids go 2 ways. Luers kids don't. They wore down late. And so I think that's going to be a big thing in the Tipton game. Luers has Jalen Smith, and nobody in the state does other than Luers. I don't think they're as good as they were the last couple years, but they're good enough to get it done.
Good enough to get it done all the way to a state championship, you believe?
I got to see I got to see who they're playing in the state championship. I'm not ready to pull the trigger on that. They're good enough to survive this week. I think Tipton plays them much closer than they have last couple years, but not quite good enough to get it done.
I agree. I think it might be a 7-point, maybe a 9-point.
Yeah.
I don't want to get it into double digits because Las Vegas will hammer me because they always watch the show.
They do.
As far as the Luers development goes, we've also seen them get a little bit better in the passing game. And that's just something that they're not completely effective at yet. But you could see where Mike Rogers could bust a play or two, and that could be the difference in a game.
You know, it's interesting, and not to knock a kid, but they've got really inconsistent play this year at quarterback. And so they just could not throw the ball at all, which is really weird to watch a Luers team after having James Kanapke there, who looked like Dan Marino. They can't throw the ball at all. And so I think they're going to have to go more with the Cougar formation and get the ball into the hands of Michael Rogers. Michael Rogers, Tyvel Jemison, I mean, they're wasted on that offense because they can't get the ball to them at all. And so you've got to figure out a way, reverses, and they did run a reverse one time, went for a late touchdown, which took a 14-0 lead to a 21-0 lead. Figure out different ways to get the ball into the playmakers' hands because simply passing it isn't working.
How much of Coach Kiefer's, I don't know how much interaction you've had with Coach Kiefer, but how much his demeanor it was kind of the right thing for the situation because he's pretty laid back, old school football guy, let's just get it done type of guy. Not rah-rah, not in your face, but just here's what I expect you to do, so do it.
Well, it took a very special person to step into the shoes of Matt Lindsay and fill those shoes. I mean, and you couldn't have a inexperienced or a young coach that maybe felt the presence of Matt Lindsay and tried to live up to the accomplishments of Matt Lindsay. Steve Kiefer's like, hey, I was supposed to be hunting and fishing at this time of the year right now. Let's just go out, have fun, play some football, win a state championship, and then I can get back to hunting and fishing and coaching some freshmen. He really, I talked to him when he first got hired, he really was lamenting the fact he wasn't going to be able to finish the freshman season. I mean, he liked working with those kids. And so, yeah, you're right. Having a veteran, experienced coach that's not worried about all the hype and hoopla surrounding the program, just like, hey, let's have a good practice today. Let's have a good game on Friday night. And the difference, they are running Jalen Smith left, right, round, over, I'm through. I mean, they are getting the ball to Jalen Smith, and that is a big difference than it was earlier in the year. They were handing the ball off some to Jalen, but now he's their bread and butter.
I can't remember since Coach Kiefer took over if there's ever been a first play of a game that hasn't been a handoff to Jalen Smith, and I couldn't have said that before. before that. But they are utilizing the biggest horse perhaps in the state.
And Luers has a number of other playmakers, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They did a nice job against Cherubusco. Jason Nicodemus did get 143 yards, but you can't. What are you going to do? Hold Jason Nicodemus to 20? I mean, he's a great player. And so the Luers, they have playmakers on both sides of the ball. They've got to figure out a way offensively to get the ball into those kids' hands. And
Coach Kiefer will get a chance to get some more bluegill. He told me last week the bluegill were biting before the weather came in, and he had a few that were here that he got and were pretty tasty. So hopefully he'll have enough time for that when the season is over and they're hoisting a championship down at Lucas Oil Stadium. Of course, that's a couple weeks away, and we will join you next Monday to recap the regional championships and look ahead to semi-state. But for now, he's Tom Davis. I'm Glenn Marini, and we'll see you then.